Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Today I am going to talk about how to use Tinkercad software so that you can create your own 3D print design. And the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen so that you can see my Tinkercad. So here we go. I'm opening up my Tinkercad account. And you can see that I've used this Tinkercad account for a while. I have a lot of projects and that's okay. But today I'm going to start about how you can create a brand new project, because this is the same for everyone, whether or not you've had an account for a long time or a very short amount of time. The first thing you would do is click this Create New Design button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button to open up a new Tinkercad page. All right, and this is the Tinkercad workspace. You can see I have this big blue square in the middle. That's called our Workplane, and that's what we're going to be working on today. This blue plane acts as the floor of your design. It is, comparing it to the 3D printer, it's the floor of that 3D printer. It's what our printers can be printing directly onto. And everything we print is going to build up from that floor. So we have our work plane. It's got a nice little grid shape onto it. Each of these grids is a millimeter, so that you can kind of keep an eye on how big your project is getting. You can see that I'm zooming in and out on my work plane. I'm doing that just by rolling the wheel on my mouse. You can also do that with these little buttons off to the left. There's a plus button, which will bring you closer, and a minus button will bring you out. You can also rotate this work plane. If you don't want this view, you want a different one, you can hold your right mouse button down and move the plane around however you like, which is really handy if you want to get different views. Or you can look at this box over to the upper left and pull on that box to get different views. That's sometimes really nice because the box is labeled, right? Right now it's telling me that I'm looking at the bottom of the design. Now, if you ever get yourself into a really strange view, which is very easy to do if you're just messing around with the different view settings here, and you want to get back to where you were to begin with, you can click this button with a little house on it called Home View, and that'll bring us right back to where we started. So those are some quick ideas about how you can navigate on this work plane. Now, when you're going to create your design, what you're going to need to do is choose one of these shapes from the shape library. There are a lot of different shapes, and you can move these shapes in a lot of different ways. For now, don't worry about the color of the shape. Just choose the shape based on what you're wanting to build. I'm going to use the example of building like a keychain or a backpack charm. So I'm going to start with this box shape, and I'm going to pull it onto my grid. Every time you pull the box shape on, it's always going to come out the same exact size. I can see the size in this menu that's popping over here to the right. It's telling me that its length is 20, its width is 20, and its height is 20. You can also see those numbers when you're on the shape itself. You go to one of these little white squares in the corners, it'll tell you the distance that you're at. It's 20 and 20. And again, this is in millimeters. If you want to know the height of it, you would look at that top box, and it's telling me it's 20. I only need one box for my project, so I'm going to go ahead and delete these other ones. The one that I'm on right now, I'm going to delete it just by hitting my delete key. The other way to delete it is to select that shape and hit this trash can up in the top left. And now I'm left with my one box, and that's all I need for the project. But I don't want my keychain or a backpack square to be a box. I want it to be like a long, flat rectangle. And there's a couple different ways I can resize it. The first one is that I can pull the shape by holding down on one of those white boxes with my left mouse button. I can also change the shape by typing in the little number box up here. So it's hanging out because I'm still on that little white square in the corner. I'm going to select that number, and I'm going to tell it that I want mine to be 75 millimeters long. I'm going to tell it this way that I want it to be 25 millimeters wide. When I click those and I've got my shape selected, we can see it is completely changed over here. So it's very good. I also, though, don't want my shape to be 20 millimeters tall. That's going to be too tall for my keychain or my backpack charm. You can kind of imagine if you're looking at a ruler, for example, that a keychain that's thick, right? That's pretty thick. you know. So I don't want mine to be 20. I want it to be a lot smaller. And I'm going to go down to, I'm going to go to 3 for now. So I'm at 3. That's pretty small. That's pretty thin. But I want to do 3 because I know that I'm going to want to add some other shapes on top of this. And that is what I'm going to do next. I want my keychain to have a word on it. It's going to say, it'll just say my name. It'll say Kim. So I'm going to select this text button, and I'm going to place my text on top of my keychain. And right now it is massive. Again, it starts, I think this is also a 10. It's a 10. I've got the text. It's really big. It's taking up my entire rectangle. I don't want it to take up my whole rectangle, so I'm going to shrink it a little here just by pulling on that tab. And again, you could just write the number in if you like. And I'm going to go to the top view, make sure it looks how I like it. Yeah, that's pretty good. But I don't want my text to say text. I want my text to say my name. I want it to say Kim. So I'm going to write my name on my keychain. And I also know that I don't want my name Kim to be as tall as 10. I'm going to bring it down. So my base is 3. I'm going to go ahead and make this just a 6. So half of that base shape. So it says 6. Now 3 of those millimeters are inside this rectangle. You can tell because I can pull it away and push it back on. And 3 of my millimeters are on top of the rectangle. Get that back into position here. All right. Now what's really important is that I've made sure that my shapes connect, right? When I'm making my print, I need these to connect. I can't put my name over here and my rectangle here. Otherwise, I'm going to get 2 different shapes. Well, actually 3 different shapes, 4 different shapes, because these letters aren't connected, right? They're only connected by putting them onto a base, such as this rectangle. What I could do is raise it a little bit so the top of my eye, that dot in my eye, goes over the edge. That's okay to do. Because it's still connected to the rectangle. It'll still be connected to your project. If I raised it too much, when I print this, the dot isn't going to be connected to my project. So that would be a problem, right? So I'm going to go ahead and drag this back. So everything's on my rectangle. I actually kind of like when the dot's hanging over, but I don't want any of the K hanging over. So I'm going to position it like so. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my rectangle, I've got my name, and I'm thinking, okay, everything is red right now, and that's a little bit hard to see. And when I print this, I don't want it all to be red. I know I'm going to want it to be a different color. So I'm going to go ahead and change this red to a different color to help me kind of get an idea of what I want to print, and also to help it stand out so I can better design this. So what I'm doing is I'm click the shape that I want. This is my name. And I'm going to that color, solid, and I'm going to change it to another color. I'm just going to pick blue for right now, so I can see this very clearly against that red background. Now I'm looking at my shape and I'm thinking, okay, this is really cool, but I think I want something else. I want a little decoration. I can go ahead and add another shape. I think I'm going to put a heart on mine. Let's just pull this heart shape over, and I'm going to go with the same height. I want it to also be the same height as the word Kim. So I'm going to back it down to size 6. And I want to rotate it a little. Oh, I'm stretching it. That's okay. I can hit undo. So undo is up here in the top left. There's an undo button. And if you undo something, you can always redo what you've undid. I want this heart on my paper, but I want it to be a little bit turned. I want to make it a little askew. So I'm going to use this little curvy arrow and kind of rotate it like so. Good. So now I've got my name, I've got a heart. This looks pretty nice. Let's imagine I didn't want my heart to touch the base of that rectangle. It's going to be connected to the rectangle, but I don't want it to be all the way to the ground of the rectangle, right? It's all the way to the ground, bottom of the floor of the work plane right here. Let's imagine I want it a little bit elevated. I could bring it up a little bit with this black pyramid button. You can do that if you like. I'm going to go ahead and push mine back down onto the work plane because I think I want mine actually to be flush with that work plane. And I can look at it from the bottom to make sure it's doing what I want. There we go. So I've got my name, I've got a heart, I'm pretty happy with this. I think I'm gonna go ahead and change the color of that heart just to make it stand out a little differently. I want it to also be blue like my name. And now you might think, okay, cool, you've got your design, you're ready to go. But if this is going to be a backpack charm or a keychain, it needs to have another key component. It needs to have a hole. You need the hole to put your keychain through, your key ring through, or your carabiner, or however you're going to connect it to your backpack. And to make a hole, you can do one of two things. These two shapes at the top, this box and this cylinder that are kind of grayed out with the stripes, those are actually hole shapes. So if I dragged one over and popped it on here, I'm going to be getting a hole through my shape. I don't really want that big hole right there, and I want to show you another way to do this. So I'm going to take a regular cylinder and I'm going to pull it onto my design. And I know that I want my hole up here in this top corner, but I know I don't want it to be that big. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this shape down. I'm going to make it 5 by 5. I think that's a pretty good size for a hole for a keychain to fit into. And then I'm going to drag it onto my design. I want to make sure it has a little bit of room on both sides, just so it can, just so it'll fit through the shape and not risk breaking when I put that keychain in. I've got a good distance there. And now I need for it to become a hole. So what I'm going to do is select the shape, and up here I can select that I want it to become a hole. Now for the hole, I really want to make sure it pushes all the way down through the design. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that little top pyramid like I showed you a moment ago, and I'm going to bring it straight down just to make sure my hole moves all the way through the design. And now I'm very nearly done. I like this very much. And what I'm going to do is select all the shapes. I'm just going to drag with my left mouse button, drag a big shape here, and I'm going to group everything together. And now I have a solid project. You can see that it's one complete piece. It did change everything to red. So what I'm going to do is ungroup, because I do want to retain my color. And I'm going to hold my shift button. I'm going to select the word Kim. I'm going to select the heart because those are in blue. I am going to group them. I'm going to select the hole in the red, and I'm going to group them. And now I've got my colors and my hole, everything intact. And I can see that this design is exactly like I like it. Now, if you are working on this and you feel like you need to ungroup, select everything. The ungroup button is right next to the group button over here in the top right corner. And when you are finished, you're happy with your design, what you're going to need to do is go back out to your Tinkercad dashboard just by hitting this little rainbow box that they've got in the corner. I'm going to click that. Oh, and I'm going to show you too, I forgot to rename my design. That's very, very important. So I'll show you how to do that in just a moment as well. All right, you've got your design. I'm going to go ahead and click it again because we need to rename it. And I'm going to go into Tinker this. You can always open a design up again to tinker it another time. And that's very important to know, right? You never have to save this. It'll automatically save. And you can always go back in to retinker. To rename it, we're just going to select the name at the top. And usually on your project, you're going to have, or your program, you're going to have some kind of format that the librarian is giving you to rename the project. I'm just going to call this one my MCPL for the Monroe County Public Library, Kim Keychain Sample. So that my sample is ready to go. It's named, and I'm going to go back out to the dashboard and show you the next step that you'll need to do so that you could share your project with us. Because we're going to need to print your keychain or your charm on site. So what you'll need to do is on your dashboard, click that little gear symbol and go to the properties button. And then you're going to need to select public instead of private and hit save. And now you're going to need to share your project by going into it, clicking into it. On this screen, you can find a link to the project. You'll copy that link and you'll share it with the librarian who's running your program. by email. And you'll have that in your instructions that accompany your program, or in an email that's sent by the librarian or by the library. All right. After you've done that, you'll also receive a notice when your project is ready to pick up. We'll print it at the library. It will take us a couple of weeks. During this pandemic period, it might take up to 3 to 4 weeks. So just be patient, or we will be printing your project. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact the library. We can help you out. And otherwise, just enjoy. Have a lot of fun with this. I think it is very exciting and very interesting just to see what you can come up with in Tinkercad. Thank you so much, and have a great day.